Okay, so far we've talked about a lot of stuff about you and your beliefs and your internal thought process and stuff like that. And all that's important, and it really is a place to start. But from here on, we're going to talk about process and system and how to do various kinds of things. So I want to start with this whole idea about establishing agendas and gaining agreements with prospects. And if we talk about this area, how to eliminate, I want to think it over and maintain control of the sales process by eliminating all kinds of stalls and put-offs. There is a way to do that. It also, by doing the process I'm going to share with you, will increase trust and credibility with your clients. And it will help you gain agreement up front with them about how the process is going to work. So if you're like most folks, you experience stalls and put-offs. Just out of curiosity, how many of you have had a prospect give you a stall or put-off in the last 30 days? Okay, how about more than one stall or put-off in the last 30 days? Okay, more than 5? All right, so that, if something's happening more than once every 90 days, if that's a recurring issue, then that's something you need to address and deal with. Otherwise, it just continues to roll. So let's talk about this establishing agendas. I'm going to give you the concept, and then I'm going to give you the breakdown of it, and then I'm going to give you a demonstration of how to do it. And for the demonstration, I'm going to need a chair. I don't need it right this minute, but I'll just need a chair that I can drag up whoever's going to be the participant, the role play with me. So let's talk about the concept first. The concept is that you want to take control of the selling process by setting the expectations and establishing a mutually acceptable agenda for each meeting or call. Now, unless you are in control of the sales process, unless you are controlling the process, it is going to become very difficult for you to get the desired outcome you like. This is another writer-downer. He who sets the agenda controls the outcome. He who sets the agenda controls the outcome. So you want to set the agenda. If you don't set the agenda, the prospect will set the agenda for you. And their agenda is not in your best interest. What is the agenda of the prospect? They want to extract maximum amount of information from you, not pay you anything for it, and at the same time not give you any information about their situation. So somebody's going to be in control. Does this light mean anything? All right. When in the selling process do you want to set the agenda and manage the expectation?
At the beginning.
You want to do it at the beginning. When else in the selling process do you want to have a clear-cut agenda about what is going to take place next? When else besides in the beginning?
Each step you take.
You saw the slide. No, you're smart. That's exactly it. Short answer is this happens at every step of the way of the process. And what happens is salespeople who even understand this get sloppy in their application of it. And every time they drop the ball and they do not do this, they get a different outcome than what they had hoped for. So you definitely want to set the agenda on the first call. Prospect's agenda is to pick your brain for information, pay you no money for it, and give you no information in return. There's a rule in selling that says you can be part of your plan or you will become part of their plan. Somebody's leading, it's like a dance. Somebody's going to lead, somebody's going to follow. You have to decide if you're going to lead or follow. If you follow and let the prospect dictate the process, then that is somewhat akin to being a trained circus animal that is trained to jump through hoops. And if you do that, then all you're going to do is become a facilitator to the buyer's wishes. You don't want to do that. It's counterproductive. You're not going to get what you want. You want to set an agenda at the end of the first call. If there is going to be a subsequent discussion, you want to set the agenda for what's going to happen next. The next call, the next face-to-face visit, whatever it is, you want to have that established at the end of that call. Now keep in mind, it needs to be clear and it needs to be specific. When we're going to talk again, who's going to be there, what are we going to talk about, and what kind of decisions are going to be made next time we talk. All that is talked about at the end of the first call before the second call. And when you show up for the second call, where do you start? You start by reviewing the agenda. At the first face-to-face meeting, first face-to-face meeting could be the first call or it could be a telephone call. At the end of the first meeting, at the beginning and end of each subsequent call or meeting, never agree to have another conversation or never agree to schedule another appointment with somebody until you have clearly identified and set an agenda for the next call. You should be thinking, it should be seared into your brain, what happens next? You always want to be thinking, what happens next? And the only way you know what happens next is that you and the prospect verbally discuss what's going to happen next, and you're both in agreement to what is going to happen next. That way there are no surprises. You eliminate all assumptions. Because you have gone on sales calls in which you assumed what was going to happen next. You had an assumption about what was going to happen next. They had an assumption about what was going to happen next, and they weren't even close. And you certainly want to set the agenda before you give your proposal or presentation. That is the ultimate agenda. As you clearly define, before I give you a presentation, we need to talk about what's going to happen after I've shown you everything there is to show you and told you everything there is to tell you. All right? So those are the processes. In short, you begin every conversation with the prospect with an agenda, and you end every conversation with the prospect with an agenda. And then the next call, you review the agenda that you left with. At the last call, you start that next conversation with a review of this was the agenda we agreed to last time we met about what was going to happen today. Because they will have forgotten. Do you think they have ever met another salesperson that came in and gave them an agenda for the call? Okay? Now, here's what the agenda looks like. And this is part of the New School Selling Action Guide. It's in here. And I'm going to show you how to use this. This is the actual agenda. And what I suggest you do is you take it and you print it out on your letterhead. And at your first face-to-face appointment, you show up with this on your letterhead and you give it to the prospect, and when you first start your conversation, and say, oh, before we start our conversation, I stayed up all last night and prepared an agenda for our call because I know how important your time is and how important mine is. So before we get started here today, can we take 90 seconds and go over our agenda, and you tell me if there's anything you want to add to it. That's how you do it. I'm going to show you how to do that in a second. Here are the pieces of that agenda. Here's what it looks like. There's 7 pieces to it. Number 1 is the objective. And this is all written down on the agenda. This is what the piece you give to the prospect. The objective. You say to the prospect, you know, the objective of our meeting, let's talk about the objective. The objective is to see if there's a fit between your company and mine, right? Now this is an example of how you use it in the first face-to-face meeting. They're going to say, sure, we want to find out if there's a fit between what you do and what we're looking for. And then you're going to say, great, well, there are 2 ground rules to figure that out. Number 1 is we need to have total open and honest communication with one another. In other words, Mr. Prospect, what that means is we don't need any blowing of smoke or any BS here. I won't blow smoke at you or give you any BS. I just ask you to do the same. So are you okay, Yolanda, being totally straight with me about what's happening? Because that's the only way I can figure out if I can help you, and I'll be totally straight with you. And the second thing is, if our answers don't match, and if at any time I get the feeling that I can't help you, or there's not a commitment to want to address your issue, then I'll do like this, which means time out, and we can stop and either address that issue or we can decide we don't need to go any further. So, Jay, would you be okay telling me if any time during the conversation today you get the feeling there's no fit, would you be okay giving me a timeout and telling me you don't think we need to go any further? He's going to say sure. Okay. Number 3, in order to determine if I can help you, I need to know where you are and where you want to be. Where are you now and where would you like to be? And what do you want to fix or improve about your current situation? Because you may want to fix or improve something that I can't help you with, so I need to know that. Does that make sense to you? They'll say yes. Assuming that you are doing something, you're looking for something that I can help you with, then I will give you a quick overview of our company's products and services. Now, I'm not promising you we'll get to number 4. We may decide after number 2 we don't need to go any further, but assuming we get that far, that's what the 4th step would be. The 5th step, again assuming we get that far, would be talking about your decision process relative to how do you guys go about making decisions and what do you need from me to help you do that. And number 6, at the end of our conversation would be that if we go the full length of this, that both you and I need to clearly decide what our next step should be. Okay? So those are the 6 pieces of it. There's actually a 7th piece on here, which I put in the printed version, but I didn't put in here, which would be actually between step 5 and 6 would be proposed solutions. But we're not putting proposed solutions in the initial contact because you're not going to propose any solutions in the first meeting. Okay? So you take that. Let me do this. Let me move over. Who would like to role play? It's going to be real simple. All you got to do is agree with me to everything I'm going to do. Real simple role play. And I'll show you kind of how I do this and show you the flow of how it works. And literally, I'll do it in 90 seconds or less to go over this agenda, to give you a demonstration of how this works. So who wants to play? Okay, Jay. All right, good. All right. So here's my microphone. All right, let me grab a chair here. Now, all right. So I've been invited into Jay's place of business. So Jay and I have chit-chatted, and I was a nice shirt, Jay. Really like that shirt. That's a good color on you. It looks great, man. So, so Jay, I know your time is very valuable, as is mine.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So in preparation for that, I created a short agenda that I thought would make sense for us to go over today to frame what we're going to talk about. So I made a copy for you and a copy for me. So can we take about a minute and a half to go over this real quick?
Sure, okay.
Okay, and then you can tell me if there's anything you want to add.
Okay.
So what I think makes sense today is talk about our objective of getting together, and probably you, like me, are trying to determine if there's a fit between your company and mine.
Well, that makes sense.
Okay. In order to do that, we really need to do two things. One is we need to be totally candid with each other, because I've got some questions for you, as you do with me, and I'll be straight with you and give you the straight answers.
Good.
I just ask you to do the same thing and not blow smoke at me,
Okay.
okay? Because I'm not a BS kind of guy.
Great.
All right. The second thing is, if either one of us gets the idea that there's no fit between our companies and you get the feeling I'm wasting your time, or I get the feeling I'm wasting my time, I'll do like that and tell you I don't think we need to go any further, and I would ask that you do the same. So
Okay, that sounds fair.
are you sure you can do that?
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Yeah, we can do that.
The third thing we need to do is we need to talk about your current situation, where you are and where you want to go, because until I understand more about your company and what you guys are dealing with, there's no possible way I can determine if I can help you. So I have
Okay.
some questions for you about where you are, where you want to go, what are you looking for, that type thing.
Okay.
Okay? And then the fourth thing, assuming that you have things that I could help you with, the fourth thing we need to talk about is I'll give you kind of an overview of my company and our products and services. It's kind of a thumbnail of a big picture of what we do and how we do it, and some general ideas about fees and stuff like that.
Okay.
And then the fifth thing, we'll need to talk about what kind of commitment that you have about solving the issues that you guys are having, whether there's a commitment there to really fix the problem, and if so, what kind of decision process you guys use to go about making decisions like this. Probably need to involve some other people besides you,
Probably.
okay? And then at the end of this conversation, you and I'll figure out what, if anything, we need to do next. We may not need to do anything, but if we do need to do something, whether it's another conversation or bring somebody else into the conversation, we need to figure that out. And if we are going to have a subsequent conversation, we'll need to be real clear about when that's going to happen and who all's going to be involved and what's going to happen.
That makes sense.
Make sense?
Yes.
Okay.
Sure.
Anything you want to add to this?
No, I don't think you got it covered.
And that's what I hear about 9 times out of 10. Because you know what? I do have it covered. I got it all covered. It's all covered there. So that's how you would use that agenda. Now, what does it do for your credibility when you walk in with something like that and start off that way and you give them a written agenda?
Rhea,
That differentiates you in the marketplace, because I promise you, unless they've been trained by me or somebody similar to me, they have never seen a salesperson do that, not one. What does it do for taking control of the process? Puts you in total control, doesn't it? Doesn't it position you as the conductor of the orchestra here? Their mother taught them that when somebody gave them something in writing, that's what you went by. They will follow along because it's in writing. Now, you can do what I just did verbally without the paper, but it doesn't have the same effect. So you want to use the written agenda. And the other thing it does is when we get down into this and somebody wants to know, well, how much is it? Somebody says to me within the first 30 seconds of the conversation, well, how much is it? Then what I do is I'll go back up here and say, whoa, wait a minute. You're on page 6. I'm still back on page 2. Now, can we back up for a minute, because I don't even know what you're trying to do here. I don't know what your objectives are. I don't know what your issues are. I don't know what your concerns are. So I don't have a clue what it's going to cost, or if you even need it at all. You may not need our services. Now, I'll be glad to address the investment necessary should we get that far in the conversation, not promising that we will. So can we back up and talk about your issues and concerns? So what it does is it takes them right back there. Now, occasionally you'll have somebody who will want to be real hard-nosed and cut to the chase with you about that. And a driver-type personality, you have to give them some sort of answer without cutting your own throat and doing something that's going to not be in your best interest. So I might say, Jay, if you really press me on price at this point, since I don't know that much about your company, it may be somewhere between $1,000 and $100,000. Now, I don't know any closer to that until I find out more about what you're doing. But if you must have a number, that's the best I can give you at this point, because I'm clueless about what you need. Kind of like asking a doctor how much the heart operation is going to cost before he takes your blood pressure. So, that's kind of the same analogy here. And I talk like that. So you want to be able to do that and take that kind of control, and it just does a number of things for you to be able to do that. It's also a cheat sheet for you. You don't have to remember the sales process. I wrote it down for you. I gave it to you as a Cliff Note version. There it is right there. If you get stumped, you just go back up here to where it is, and by all means take notes and write down stuff. It gives the impression you care what they're saying and that you're listening, and they are going to give you some good stuff. And it allows you, by taking notes, it allows you to control the flow of the conversation. Because if they're going too fast and all that sort of stuff, you just go, whoa, hold on, wait a minute, back up a second. You said something real important a second ago. It also buys you time to think about what you're going to do next. So it serves a multitude of purposes, a single sheet of paper that is huge. And that is something, guys, you can do that on Monday. You can do that next week. Okay? So that would be establishing, using an agenda. Now, let me give you the telephone version of this. Whether it's an inbound or outbound call, you get someone on the phone and you're talking with them, and you have a little bit of a discourse between them and you, and they say, well, hey, I'd like for you to come see us and tell us a little bit about what you do and blah, 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 okay? So they've invited you somehow to come see them. So what you're going to do is you're going to say, great, Jay, I appreciate that. I'll be glad, next Thursday, whenever you schedule it, at 2 o'clock, if that's the time we're going to meet. That makes a lot of sense. Now, in preparation for our meeting is going to be 30 minutes long, from 2:30 to 3. In preparation for our meeting, and so that we make the best use of our time, can we talk about what's going to happen when I come see you next week? He's going to say yes. It's okay. Jake, what I'm going to need next week when I come to see you, first thing I need for you to know is I'm not coming over to give you a presentation. Okay? Because quite frankly, I don't know if I can help you or not. What I'm going to do is come over and I'll have some questions for you about your company and what you do and how you do it and what you're looking for in a company like ours that we may be able to help you. And I'm sure you're going to have some questions for me. Fair? Does that make sense? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring with me a written list of questions that I want to ask you. I would encourage you to write out a list of written questions you have for me. And I will answer your questions as directly as possible